Hi, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Adrienne Standiford. I'm the Director of Operations here with Alternative Solutions. Thank you for joining us today. We have offered educational webinars here off and on over the years and decided to bring those back when quarantine started. We're now into our 7th month of these educational lunch and learns. For those of you that have been joining us, thank you. For those new folks out there, we're glad to have you and hope that you find the content interesting and useful. Today we have Spencer Gibson, who is one of our senior Salesforce business analysts. Spencer's going to delve into Tableau and tell us more interesting information about it. Just a little bit about Spencer. He holds several Salesforce certifications. He's Twilio certified, AWS, TIBCO, Microsoft Dynamics, and a few others I'm sure I've left off. So I don't want to toot his horn too loudly, but just know that Spencer brings a wealth of knowledge and experience with him on these topics that we're presenting. So we hope that you enjoy it and learn something from it. Spencer, with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and hand it off to you.
Thank you, Adrienne, for the great introduction, and thank you everybody for joining us today, as well as those who weren't able to make it and are watching on video. We're going to talk about Tableau today, and Tableau, at the end of the day, what it is a tool that helps you take the data that you have in your organization and display it in a way that is a little bit more usable than what we're used to. And ultimately what we want to do is drive transformations inside of our organization with that data. So as an overview, it's an analytics tool, and the idea is you're visualizing your data. So it gives you tools that will present your data based off your raw information. It's helping you find and show patterns in that data. And then hopefully you can use that data to help outline what next steps you want to take based off of it. And so what this does at the end of the day, it takes these numbers that are kind of cold, hard, and unrelatable, and it makes them visual and makes them feel like they're telling you a story, and it brings some more meaning to them. And so as we look through here, we want to look through the power of analytics. So we want to find answers to questions that we're asking in our business. And we always want to be thinking when we're designing reports, dashboards, and the like, we want to be answering a question within the business. And then we want to be empowering our users to actually answer that question. We want to have insights to launch new initiatives in our business. When you're working through an analytics platform, and when we're building out reports and dashboards for our users, we want the experience to be intuitive. And we'll see as we look at a couple of sample dashboards here in a second, how intuitive that Tableau really can be. We want to have governance and security. So we want to be able to inherit our sharing rules, especially if we're connected through Salesforce. That's a really neat Tableau feature, is we can inherit all of our security. So we're making sure the right people have access to data, and we're not putting things on a report and then someone gets that report accidentally and they're seeing data that they can't make sense of, or that is just outside their purview. And we want to use our reporting to enhance our organization throughout. So whether it be key performance indicator reporting all the way down to the frontline employee, all the way up to the CEO and your executive board, the kind of reports that they're getting. So I want to take a look real quick at a few reports that are available. If you go to public.tableau.com, every weekday, just about, they put out one of these neat information graph that helps us understand something, but really what it does is it shows off some of the tools inside Tableau. So more than the actual data we're looking at, we want to kind of look at these as a showcase of the skill set of Tableau. So here, we've built a graph, or an infographic that's in the shape of the US, and it's looking at who is and isn't likely to vote by mail. So we can filter this by party affiliation, age, and other issues, as well as by month, so we can look at things historically. We can actually filter this down. If I click DC, it's going to show me the demographics for just that area. Someone's also gone in here and built a hover. So if I hover over these details, it's going to break down how we came up with that 72% net promoter score there, and what the actual breakdown inside of it was. And, you know, all of this feels very intuitive. You know, I mean, it just feels right that when you click this, it would filter to just Maryland. It feels right that when you hover over here, it would filter down to that. So all of this information generated dynamically. And what you're able to do is the user, as they're going through, we've answered several questions with this graph, and the user can kind of figure out as they're going through it, is that the issues that I care about, or is it age, or what question do I need to answer at the moment with this information? So let's take a look at another graph. This is taking a look at GDP across the United States in different counties. So we're trying to open up a new restaurant location or a new retail location, and we need to figure out what county we're going to expand into next. This could be a really useful piece of information. And of course, this is using global public data, and we can always go out and get data like this. But we can also use our internal data and display it this way. But again, we're going to have some interactivity here. We can hover over the county. It's going to show us more detailed information. If we had access to the data source that they were using here, we could also, of course, allow us to click through into reports on those different areas. And we can do some searching to highlight just Alabama, or even look for specific counties. And it's going to take a second to update. And so this just gives you another idea of the power of Twilio, or of Tableau rather. Here's another one. Here is a hashtag of hashtag data 2020. So we're going out, we've connected to Twitter. Twitter has these neat public APIs. It's one of the easiest companies to go out and get interesting data from. And actually can get really, really interesting data for specific industries. But this is a time-lapse graph. So this is going to let us show, we can click this time-lapse, and it's going to show us throughout the day who is, how often the data 2020 is being tweeted. It's going to let us show who it's tweeting out from, and we could add other components to this dashboard that also update, like this top 20 tweeters does. And so this kind of gets you, based on different information we could throw here, you can get a much better feel of what's happening throughout the day by running through this time lapse and actually saying, oh, you know, it just jumps out at you more that Interworks didn't start till the midpoint in the day, but man, around lunchtime they picked up their tweeting. And then here's the last one we'll look at as far as the public graphs go. And this is actually looking at contact tracing that happened inside of the United States government. And this is one of my favorite ones to show off just because there's so much data being displayed here on this report that it almost would be overwhelming to a person. But because we've segmented it like we have, we can start to pull a whole lot of trends out of it, and we can answer a lot of questions. So we can kind of see by our different area who is and isn't getting contact traced. We can see party divides. We can look at just people with mild symptoms if we were trying to answer specific questions around that area. We also then can see all of this data and display all of the data that's down here in our grid in a lot of different ways that might make it a little easier to get an idea of. So here we're looking at days of testing. So it kind of tells you a better picture of how often people are getting tested, when the first people started getting tested, and of course sorting this by different information or filtering it would let you dig deeper into that. We can go by date, so this gives you a much better picture of your timeline. We can section this out into events. So we've done the contact tracing here, like we would be able to do if, say, we had Health Cloud and Work.com inside of Salesforce. And we can see what event they were at, who's traced positive, negative. We could add filters here to see all kinds of different information that we might want to. And kind of this would be very helpful in a lot of people that are managing multiple retail locations or multiple factory locations. You know, you can identify your supply side issues long before they come, looking at, oh gosh, we clearly have an outbreak going on here, or we clearly have a lot of call-ins, even if it's not COVID related, or maybe even this is your different suppliers and the frequency of them meeting deadlines recently. We can take these same events and we can actually put them on a map. And this is a great way, I think, for to overview things to senior leadership as well as customers sometimes, is taking your different locations, throwing some data points out, and then doing a sum and throwing them on the map. And so here we can kind of drill down in our different areas. We can do a lot of fun stuff with this map. Alternative Solutions, we've done some really neat work with Bridgestone on some different mapping applications like this, where we were able to do some fun reporting. And it's just, when you put things on a map and you make them a little more interactive, the user tends to spend a bit more time on it. They enjoy it a little bit more, so they're more likely to go out and use that tool rather than get the information through a way that might be a little more difficult. And then lastly, this is not going to be the easiest to read thing here, but it kind of shows you the power of what's under the hood inside of Twilio. Here we've gone through, and since we've got contact tracing and we can link all of these people through the object we've created there, we can see Mike Pence, of course, the vice president, is going to be talking to more people than most. He's got a lot of branches coming off. And as you get out here to the outside, you know, here you're going to have people don't even have a name loaded with him. Not going to be quite as busy, not going to have interactives with as many people. And there's a whole lot of features like this that you have to obviously use in the right scenario. And this probably is one where it really shows it off, but it's not going to mean as much. But you really could leverage a lot of these tools and these platform features that are built in already by Tableau to extend your reporting that you currently have. So as we talk about that, and a big trend that we want to keep to as we looked at those reports, there's two different types of reporting in my mind. There's regular reporting, and we talk about this a lot in Pardot as well. So reporting is showing you what's happening. It's just taking your data, it's displaying it. You're pushing those users out or you're pushing that data out to users on a weekly, bi-weekly, monthly basis. And you're just trying to translate basic raw data into very basic raw information that can be processed by human analytics. And humans are really smart. So a lot of times a report's all they need, especially if you're looking at this data frequently and you're intimately familiar with it. A simple report or a very simple dashboard might be all that you need in that scenario. And we don't want to give users more than what they need and confuse them necessarily. But analytics comes around when we need to start asking ourselves more, why is this happening? What is the trend? So the user's going in and they're trying to pull that data out themselves more, or they're making a specific request for you as an admin or a consultant to pull it. You're questioning, you're interpreting, you're exploring. And the idea here is, and this is what I think we saw in a lot of those reports that we built on, or that were built on public Tableau, is we're able to go in and we're manipulating the report ourselves, even though it's already been curated and you know, someone's already decided how we might need to manipulate it, but we're able to manipulate it in all the ways we need to where we can pull our own answers out, and we can actually offer ourselves recommendations to drive transformative change throughout the business, which is ultimately the goal. Is when we have reporting, we're trying to drive transformative change. So we always want to ask ourselves, is our company leading with data? How do we do that? What we do that first is everybody in the organization needs to bring data analysis to discussions, to meetings. So are you pulling up reports when you're having your roundtables? when you have your Zoom meeting, is everybody just focusing on each other's pretty faces and smiling, or are we doing some screen share with that power of that technology, walking through the report saying, why do we think this trend is going up? Why do we think this trend is going down? Using the data and the reports you built is the first step to leading with your company's data. Have you eliminated opinion from having an undue influence? So that is the number one thing data can do. We all bring opinion and bias to us in our day-to-day lives, in our workday, in almost every decision we make. We have bias as humans, but when we are making decisions based off the data in front of us, we minimize that bias and we make better decisions. That's just a fairly straightforward thought, I believe. Are the two above standards being applied consistently? So to do this, we talked earlier about giving access to everybody. So everybody needs to have access to the data they need to make decisions that are appropriate to them. You know, a lot of times companies want to tie up data, and we want to be good stewards of our data. We want to treat it responsibly and with with the most security we can, while still allowing us to do business. But the allowing us to do business part is important. So if somebody needs access to information to do their job, make sure we're giving it to them. And then this also comes from a top-down culture of data being important. The board of directors and CEO level people have to be using data and talking about data. Their subordinates have to be using data, talking about data, and that will cascade throughout the company. And then, of course, there's also the ability to give incentives. So when you see people using data and it pays off, make sure you reward them for that. So here's a way that the University of Toronto's is leading through data. And here's, we're looking at one piece of information here, major interest based on grade level. And so as we go through here, we're displaying that data in different ways. So maybe the admissions office is really just going to look at this as a fairly generic piece of information. They're just trying to get people in. So they might be using that top left graph, which is segmented out by grade level. And that's the thing that generally matters to them, is who's coming in, who's staying. But, you know, on the bottom side, maybe we're looking to hire teachers and trying to figure out some information. So computer science majors are growing. Maybe we need to look at, that's where we're going to have to up staff, down staff. Whereas we see on the bottom left, it's kind of hard to make sense of that data. So maybe we just don't display it that way. But because Tableau gives you these, you can put the data into a component and then change how that component is displaying the data. You can go through and really customize the report to whatever department or whatever business use case the user's actually in when they're looking at that data. Here's something for the Google Analytics dashboards. We've gone out, we've connected with our shared key from Google to our website, Google Analytics. We've then gone over to LinPack, and LinPack makes data packs for Tableau that then extend the standard functionality of Tableau. And this is specifically built to help a marketing department look at their Google dashboard and say, oh, what websites is traffic to our website or coming from? Is it Google? Is it Reddit? Is it Bing? What parts of the world are we engaging with? How are we succeeding at acquisition per channel? All of these different ways that customers could come into our website. And so the great thing here is LinPack has made this available to us, so we can go out and see, we can download this and take advantage of features that other places have built with us without having extensive customization. And LinPack's not singular in this world. There's lots of different options, many of them at no cost to you. So you don't have to be a data guru or go out and spend 6 months of your life learning to program to take advantage of all of these features. So what are some places where we see people having issues here, or some pitfalls? Volume of data. So this can work both ways. If you're not tracking data, I remember I was managing the retention department cancellations for TiVo back in my call center days. And we found that we didn't understand why we were failing to save customers and they were canceling. And so what we did, we just built a little piece of software in a CRM that was able to track throughout the call why the customer called in, what arguments we had made to try and talk them out of it, what kind of offers we'd made as concessions to keep them on with us and retain them as a customer. And just by collecting all of that data, I was then able to, one, tell my agents by the minute intraday what their save percentage was instead of having to rely on reports that came out the next day. Two, go out to senior leadership and the operations team and say, here's what we're seeing, and then get new offers or change the way that we communicate to our customers earlier in the life cycle based on this information. But if I don't have that data, I can't go out and report on it. I can't start enabling our people to use it in a way that's transformative. At the same time, COVID-19 is going to change the way we use our data for the last 12 months for forecasting, I believe. What happened in last November and what happened in this November in how many people are coming in on a Saturday to a retail location is going to look very, very different for many industries. So we want to be filtering out that data that is otherwise very good data, but for our specific purpose here is not useful. So volume of data is crucial. Diversity of data. This is a big one we see in enterprise customers, and you'd be surprised how some of the Fortune 500s even struggle here. But you've got data in Salesforce, and say we're creating a lead. We're processing that lead. We're kicking some data over to Oracle to get the ball rolling, and we're actually processing that order in Oracle. But we're not passing that information back into Salesforce. So we haven't assigned an external key to all of our data and linked it between these different programs and different data warehouses that we have inside of our enterprise. And because of that, we don't know that lead never got fulfilled. We can't go back and report on lead generation source and whether the lead actually gets fulfilled and tie those two together. So it looks like this lead's going to producing very, very well. It's building a lot of data in Salesforce, passing a lot of data to Oracle. We're spending more and more money on this, but it turns out 70% of customers don't fulfill the order once it gets into Oracle. So we're throwing bad money after good, or good money after bad, but either way. But the diversity of data, we have to bring all that data in together and let us cross-report on it. That way it actually has the full picture and it doesn't deceive us. And then state of data. This is just general good housekeeping. Bad data is a real problem in organizations. No matter how good you try to be, you end up with bad data. You have to have a process for going and cleaning it, curating it, making sure it's up to date. It has to be an ongoing process. This can't be, I'm going to go in once a year, because then by the time you get to it, you realize you've been making bad business decisions and the problem's too big to tackle. And so it often never gets tackled fully, or it gets done haphazardly because you don't have the appropriate resources assigned that can just do that, drop everything and go. So keep your data clean. Responding to a crisis requires in-the-moment insight. So, businesses are more interested in how things are changing than where they are. Real-time data and reports let you actually see the trend, see the change before it's too late and you've ended up in that location. When data is transformed from static reporting into a valuable tool, we talked about building employee habits and building the habit of and a kind of a data culture. When data is fun to use and easy to use and it's right there and available, employees start to use it. They build the habit of use it. They go in and they start to actually understand trends and identify different techniques that work. When uncertainty is high, agility becomes really necessary. And when uncertainty is high and we're all under stress, having data as kind of a point of certainty and non-fluctuation that we can go out, we can say, I know that the data is this, I know the trend is this, we've seen it, I know I'm making good decisions based off of that. You can eliminate a lot of the uncertainty inside of the organization, and it really can just help your entire culture, as well as you as an individual employee in your decision-making process outside of the data, even by taking out that uncertainty in the one area and kind of giving yourself a point of grounding to ground to. So one of the neatest things to kind of bring us towards the end is what Salesforce has done with COVID-19 and Tableau and Salesforce both with COVID-19. So Tableau created a task force and they built a really, really neat hub for COVID-19 that tells us all kinds of information. And then Salesforce built us a really neat tool for contact tracing, work.com and Health Cloud for general health and wellness of employees in general, and also, kind of identifying trends and where we might need to make adjustments to our business throughout that crisis. So this is kind of a generic dashboard of COVID-19 cases in Tableau. It's a world dashboard, so we're just seeing different information throughout the world. Of course, we also would want to be able to give ourselves a data hub, and this is actually looking at more the publicly available one on Tableau's website. And you can actually go to Tableau's website and access this yourself, but we can see all kinds of different information. So got a daily dashboard, we can filter by country, and we can go through, and there's all kinds of dashboards here you can actually go through, and it's the Jumpstart workbook's going to walk you right through how to get started, community visualization. So these are different ways that other people in the community have shared them. Lots of different resources to kind of get you familiar with the COVID-19 dashboards inside of Tableau. Then we can always go back into Salesforce and show these as well. So here is actually pulling data from our work.com contact tracing. So we've got our different buildings. We can see on a map where we have our hotspots. Of course, in Florida is one, and then we've actually got one up north as well. How many employees are at risk based on potentially being exposed? Different information like that we want to have. It's going to show us our different shift utilization status and whether we have people available for our shift at those different locations. We can have a lot of different data here specific to help us running that. And then we can go into our Salesforce command center and just throw that Tableau dashboard and any Tableau resource that we've created dashboard, and we dynamically display that based on security as well. So yeah, that's kind of the overview of Tableau and Salesforce, and just the high level what comes with it. If anybody has any questions, I know we're right at time. This was a longer one than normal. Feel free to ask those in chat. We'll be happy to answer them. But you can also email Adrienne. Her email is there below. She's our Director of Operations, and she'll be more than happy to connect you with myself, Michelle, or one of our other great consultants.
Thanks, Spencer. That was great. Yeah, sorry, folks. We did cut this a little bit long. It's right at time, but we definitely want your questions if you have those. My email address is right there. Feel free to send me an email if you think of something today, later on, or during the week. Or if you have any questions in general about Salesforce, Twilio, Tableau, whatever it is, just let us know. So we really appreciate that, Spencer. Think anybody have any questions? Thanks, Mallory. Give it just a few more minutes. I know you guys are probably ready to get back and hit it. Thanks there, Ann. Okay. Well, I say, guys, let's wrap it up. And we appreciate you coming, and we hope that you can join us again soon. So thanks, you guys. Thanks, Spencer. And I will be sending out the post Lunch and Learn survey here shortly. So if you have any questions, you can just put that on there as well. So thanks, guys. Take care.